Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down again to talk about Cyberpunk 2077. Now we've had some time to play through this brand new update, let our thoughts digest, marinate a little bit, think on it, and then provide feedback. One of the most critical points of feedback outside of some lingering bugs and glitches still in this next-gen update is that Cyberpunk 2077 on Series S isn't that acceptable. And you may remember in our patch notes video, I pointed out that it was kind of strange that the Series S version of Cyberpunk 2077 after the next-gen update was still at 30 FPS. Well, Projekt Red has a response on that amongst addressing issues on the PlayStation side of things as well. Also, we're going to be getting into a rumor that has circulated around the Cyberpunk community for a while that has now finally been debunked. Yes, we're talking about the metro stations. And last but not least, I wanted to twist things up a little bit and show you all some really cool secrets and discoveries that are packed into Update 1.5 that are being shared amongst the Cyberpunk community, and show you all them in this video today, because some of them are really impressive and bring this city to life. You'll see what I'm talking about, so be patient. With that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, consider subscribing. We do talk a lot about Cyberpunk 2077, especially these days where there's new content abound. So let's start off with the Series S update. This article comes from Games Radar, which is titled, Cyberpunk 2077 developer is looking into the game's frame rate on Xbox Series S. Earlier this week, developer Projekt Red released Cyberpunk 2077's long-awaited 1.5 update, bringing dozens of new gameplay features, fixes, and visual enhancements to Cyberpunk 2077 on current-gen consoles. But for Series S owners, the highly anticipated patch still failed to deliver a feature that players have come to expect: 60 FPS gameplay. With many players waiting over a year for the patch, the news immediately frustrated owners of Microsoft's entry-level box, and now Projekt Red reveals it is looking into a fix. Taking to the game's official forums, community director MrMattyPlays announced that the team is currently exploring the possibility of raising the FPS cap on Xbox Series S, where the open-world sci-fi RPG now runs at a full 4K and 60 FPS on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Alongside the choice of performance, ray tracing, and resolution modes, the Series S version is simply locked at a resolution of 1440p running at 30 FPS. As well as looking into removing the frame rate cap on Series S, Projekt Red is also looking into some PlayStation-specific issues introduced in last Tuesday's patch. From the fairly disastrous bug that saw the disc version refusing to launch on PS4s after the patch, to the less urgent request to transfer PS4 trophies over to the PlayStation 5 version. The patch has also caused a PC-specific bug, game crashes caused by Cyberpunk clashing with PC audio software. This is something I noted in my final verdict video for the next-gen update, is that there are a lot of improvements under the hood. There are secrets that I'm going to show you that will absolutely make you thrilled that they went to this length to add detail to the open world. But there are still a lot of bugs, and some of them relatively catastrophic. But I don't want to be doom and gloom here, because this is a real testament to how great this update is, that a lot of those stories are getting washed over by people saying, check out this cool thing in Cyberpunk, because so many people are experiencing it for the first time. So many people are returning to it for the first time since they beat it back in 2020. So it's been kind of nice to see that. Not that I don't want Projekt Red to be critiqued. We should hold them accountable, especially after how much they lied. But I think, again, that it can be easy to get lost in the haze of bad stories. I'm hoping that they do at least figure out the more catastrophic PS4 side of things, but also this Series S frame rate is not acceptable. This is supposed to be a next-gen console. Yes, it's entry-level, but it's supposed to be more powerful than the PlayStation 4, than the Xbox One, and it should be running, if it's at a lower resolution, at 60 FPS. I think of Watch Dogs Legion. That game had ray tracing on the Series S. It's a powerful little machine. It's possible, okay? It's just about optimization, which Projekt Red, Cyberpunk, that's not the story for that game, that's for sure. All right, so I mentioned that we're also going to be debunking a rumor here. This was confirmed via MrMattyPlays again. There was a lot of speculation that Projekt Red would be bringing back the metro stations that people were finding in hidden buildings in certain parts of the map that you could only reach if you were jumping and glitching around in very specific ways. And so some people thought, like, maybe this is a thing they're going to do in future updates. Well, it's now been debunked, because MrMattyPlays writes, sorry to be the buzz killer, but that's not it. There are no plans to add metro to the game. Some were very disappointed in this. I personally wasn't, because I don't think it's necessary. Would have been cool, yeah, but I think of a game like The Ascent where it felt necessary because the game didn't really have good fast travel. So the metro stations would take you from point A to point B, and that's the only metro station I can think of. I know in, for example, Spider-Man, when you fast travel, you see him on the train, and I always love that little detail. But otherwise, there aren't many games that come to mind that already have fast travel built in that also let you just take metro stations. It just seems like unnecessary busy work, when clearly, as I just highlighted, there are other things to focus on a technical level for the game, and I think more exciting things that they could add, more features, more gameplay mechanics that make the game exciting to replay. And they're really focusing on flavor. I'll show you that in a moment, so I think this will balance things out. Maybe that's why I'm a little more level-headed with it, because I'm looking at some of the new things that are packed into 1.5, and I'm going, well, the attention to detail's there, it's just we're missing a metro station. So I don't think it's anything worth getting disgruntled over, but I know this was a lot of people speculating on it because it was in the cut content for the game, but they're confirming now that it is not going to be added. So I've talked a lot about all these community-based discoveries. I wanted to show them to you in this video here, so let's get it started. Some of them are actually on a story front, like actual scenes, cutscenes in the main story have changed, whether it be lighting changes, like when you meet Johnny Silverhand for the first time in your apartment, to something like this where Satoru Arasaka in 2023 has had his character model changed to be more in line, more lore-friendly with the story, something you would expect. But this is a little thing that was not in the patch notes. CD Projekt Red didn't say a thing about it, but it's there. And I love that because there's so many little things like that you're gonna see here, and it really does excite me. Like this section here, where some people on Reddit were talking about, it looks like they changed some places in the map. Pretty sure this wasn't like this last week, and there was a lot of agreement like, hey, I don't recognize this at all. And personally, as someone who's put many hours into Cyberpunk, I sure don't. That's what I love about this update, is that feeling of, I've spent a lot of time in this game, and this doesn't seem new, but it's all blurring together. I'm not sure. That's the feeling it's causing for us, like returning players, which is a good sign because everything feels kind of sort of new again. But yeah, they're changing actual areas in the open world map. But it's not only that, the AI is much improved now in reactivity, but also some of the things they do. So now, and this is going to get a little bit morbid, a lot of NPC death in this video, so just be warned, not in the prettiest way either. So NPCs can now die in car crashes. If you hit them head on, you'll see in this little clip here that once you strike their vehicle, if you hit them hard enough, they will be leaned against the steering wheel, against the dashboard, and that will be it for them. It's a tragic way to go for sure, but they've actually added this little detail here. And they also mentioned, if you don't recall, in the Red Stream update that there was passing out that could happen. So these NPCs are becoming more and more lifelike, if you will. There's still bugs, don't get me wrong, I don't want to overhype things, but it's cool to see. Not only that, but there are little reactions, like I mentioned. So you'll see in this clip here that the car will stop for a random NPC crossing the street. In all of my days of Cyberpunk, whether it was you, an NPC, Satoru Arasaka himself, it did not matter, you were getting run the hell over. So this is a pretty big improvement. It's to be expected. Again, new players coming in, you're gonna see this and go, oh, I expected that. Good. That's how it should have been. That's how it should have been. But for us, we've been getting run over in Night City for over a year now. So that has been augmented for not only us as V, but the NPCs as well. I mentioned little details. This is a really cool one that was spotted on Reddit. Footage of vehicle AI pressing on the brakes before going down an incline road in update 1.5. And so you'll see, just as the title of the post suggests, as these cars are hitting the road, they're starting to tap the brakes like you would in real life. You tap the brakes because, you know, the vehicle speed starts to pick up, and if you're holding down the accelerator, you might speed, you might rear end someone. We certainly don't want that. We want to be safe on the roads. Such a unnecessary thing to put in the game. Like, really, who cares? But maybe they had to because they were changing the physics. Remember, they changed the suspension physics, so when they hit the brakes, you see the car actually jerk forward. So maybe that would have carried the car forward a bit more, so they actually had to tap the brakes at the top of a hill. Just weirdo speculation here, but cool that they're even putting it in the game. And another cool element that they've added in is when it starts to rain in Night City, you'll see right here that umbrellas have joined Night City. So people will take them out, and I hope that they start to do like different styles of umbrellas. That would be really cool. But for me, Night City is such a mood when it rains, and now to see everyone reacting properly when the weather is actually occurring, awesome stuff. And then last but certainly not least, this is the one that's been really making the rounds on social media because it's really fucked up, is suicide has been added in update 1.5, and I can understand why they buried this one in the patch notes and didn't mention it at all, rather, because as you're walking around Night City, you'll just be going from point A to point B, and suddenly someone will splatter in front of you, and you look up, you're thinking, well, it's got to be a bug, right? But it happens way too many times for it to be one. And what's happening is people are learning like these are specifically corpos at times who are jumping off of business plaza buildings, and because they're overworked, they're tired, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's a good thing, but what an interesting way to depict the grim reality of the world of Night City, which is supposed to be this effectively Coruscant level piece of crap place where everyone's trying to get over on one another. There's a ton of backstabbing, ton of pressure, ton of gangs running the streets. It's very unkempt, if you will. So this does fit, as horrible as it is. And I thought that this was a shocking detail because it brings me right back to Morrowind. You leave Saint Denis, and all of a sudden all you hear is, ah! And boom, some guy falls out of the sky. You're like, what? Bethesda Game Studios, why are people falling out of the sky? And then you read his inventory and you find out, oh, there's a book here, and he was working on shoes that I think could let him levitate, if I'm remembering correctly. So you see something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, this is actually part of the game. That's what's happening here. So interesting kind of throwback for me personally, but I think this is what sort of is a testament to the depth of update 1.5, is just how many little details they've packed in here. And I know that it's not for a lot of us out there playing the biggest deal, because I think of the choice and consequence of the story. It's like, I would rather you focus on making the game react to me and my choices a lot better. But these details in the open world are always much appreciated because it feels like a true living, breathing place. It adds immersion. And again, with the map actually changing and looking better and things constantly happening in a dynamic form, like we highlighted in our final verdict video, you'll see police chases with gangs. Like that's sick, man. So I'm not going to sit here and straw man them. I'm happy that they're adding cool new features into the open world city that makes the world much more interesting to explore. And I'm hoping that in future expansions, DLC, there will be more reactivity that will speak to people like myself. But that's all I got for you in this video. Just some news updates as well as some secrets that were tucked away in this patch I wanted to show you all. So let me know what you're thinking about it in the comments down below. Does any of update 1.5 impress you? I've been reading the comments. I've seen that it's quite positive down there, so keep that up. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to sign out. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.